Okay. What humanity is dealing with now is the understanding that there are consciousnesses that are invisible to the physical eye that move between you and the trees. If you are standing in a place and there's a tree across from you, there are spiritual forces in between there. Those spiritual forces know the tree and the function of the tree, and they know the movement of you. Now, the ability of the human form...
Stop. I'm so sorry. Distracted here. You weren't being recorded, so...
Okay.
It's got a red light, right?
Humanity now is being introduced to the spirits in space. Many. And as humans have understood themselves as they are born, wake up, achieve a consciousness of identity of self, you realize as a little one that you're separate from those spirits that are floating in space. Now those spirits within the space are aware, as I said, the tree and you. The tree does not move. It blows in the wind, blown by the wind. The pulp produces oxygen for the movement of creatures. The human brain and the ability to think, what you call the mind, with understanding, has a uniqueness that is different than those spirits within the space. Now, you humans have this idea of choice, choosing, being, yet being requires breath. And in breath, you're ingesting, in a manner, all sorts of spirits that are there, including God. And you're exhaling what is not useful within the body. Yet, in your exhale, in the removal of those that are no longer needed, you provide them, since they have incorporated in your body, an opportunity to understand what the human sensation is like, being a human. But they're not in there all the time. Now, the education process of body, mind, and spirit, and the unique identity of yourself, is the understanding of the influences that are being pushed upon you. From where? And where does your thought come from? You go to actually a library of thought. We call it the river of thought. We talked about the boat being above it. But your purposeful understanding of yourself is the desire for basically it's called knowledge of perpetual movement. Being knowledge of perpetual movements means you are alive everywhere, every when. You just don't realize that yet. And you're calling your particles, particums, forces of memory, the things that come upon you to reclaim the identity of yourself within those memories. For example, you've had a bad experience in your childhood. You have a memory flash of that coming up. You try to understand the wisdom within the concept there. But what you forget is that before you are born, you come from a room where you make agreements, contracts basically, but you call it karma, past life stuff, things. Yet karma is a misnomer. It's really a memory lock that you want to get your way, and you carry it forth through lifetime and lifetime and lifetime, and you find out eventually you can't, that you have to readjust your receivers, readjust the control panel, which are your synapses in your brain. It receives thought and lets you adjudicate within yourself. Adjudicate, I said, because that's what you do. You're determining whether this is correct for me or not. And the movement, therefore, produces a result, whatever the result is. Happiness, joy, a sensation of bliss, or a preponderance of despair. Well, what you're getting now in your feeding is an electronic disturbance in your atmosphere and in your ground movement. For there is this moments of now knowing the loving of yourself. You're going to begin to understand that certain foods produce a sense of ecstasy just by touching the food. I'm not talking about ingesting yet. I'm talking about touching the food. And then in that touch of the food, you feel the process of growth in life becoming, as the fruit began, or the food became. You understand progression from seed. When you feel it, you know it did it, but you don't contemplate it. When you contemplate it, then you're contemplating yourself also as having been the seed as a little one, and that you're growing up through it. And there, in that moment, there's an acknowledgement between you and the food and the fruit you're holding. Yeah? Now, the food, that's the purpose of blessing the food. You're thankful for it growing and the elements that produced it, elementals. And you partake of that joy. The food sustains you. And then there is an innate thankfulness there in the body. It might not be mental, but the body processes understand the thankfulness there. Now, in the human condition, there are opinions of this and opinion of that, and opposites arguing against opposites. And you have this discussion process that you like to call it for the satisfaction of the ego and understanding. Well, in before, bodies were physical. There weren't physical bodies. You had all of these forces, entity forms, purposeful creations, as you two were before you became involved in the body. The concept that works with the ego is the I am better than everyone thing. It's not. So you were in that same state before bodies were formed, and you weren't aware of what the word perfection means, or was, or is. And those that were in the form, as become flesh, they developed an antithesis to the invisible spirits because their communication was sort of limited. But when they did hear, they didn't pay attention to the influence as it was meant to be instruction. They thought it was something else, and there was disagreement in the application. In that disagreement of the application, there became this label of these negative influencing forces, but yet not all of them were. The human at that time began to separate from the invisibles because the confusion between the argument of the invisibles with the visible human, there was this lapse in the transmission of the truth within the force of peace, because the invisible moves faster than the physical, and the physical got caught in its slow motion movement, basically, and they couldn't interpret it rapidly enough. You're seeing the progression of rapid information now with your computer systems all over the world. Information is everywhere at the same time for everyone that wants it. Didn't have that capability years ago. With your systems of your computers now, the availability of information is there. And what you're lacking now is the discernment within it. There's a lockdown in the interpretation of words and expressions. You're in a phase now, everybody knows what loving is and gentleness is, but you're in a phase now where you're learning to choose that for yourself and apply it without being influenced by the, well, you say it's a negative energy. It's really fear consciousness that's running. It's running. The only way you can defeat that, or what you say, stop the fear, is understand what peace means, and what protection means, and what joy means. Peace, protection, and joy gives you a clear space, so you can receive information from the invisibles that want to become visible to assist in this process. Now, if you will look at your sky at night, particularly the constellation of Orion, you're going to see that it appears to be coming closer. The stars are going to feel closer to you. What that is your light body is moving closer to the stars, and your perception is changing to adjust for the comfort of it, the knowledge that's there. There will be those that are saying this, that, and the other influence things. Everything influences you. You have your astrological charts in your grand chakra. All of those planetary forces are yours there, and the choosing of it and the other influence. The understanding of what peace is in the heart chakra is a different concept than peace outside the physical body. Your reflection of peace in the heart chakra will reflect and create peace outside. Yet you're looking for peace outside and it's not going to be there. It isn't. There's confusion outside. So now it's time to back up within the self of you. Yeah? And you need to understand the plants. Plants. Peanut oil is a secret. There is always communication going on from the peanut to the elements. The oil of the peanut holds that memory. And if you will rub it on your head and your skull, you will find that you'll get an electrical, charge that will go down your spine to the heart chakra, and you will find you're developing a younger body because you have younger thought. You will have the ability of being peanut coming out as plant. You will have that knowledge because it's in the oil of the plant. And in that oil, when you use it on your skull, you will allow your pineal gland to secrete the golden drop of youth for you.
Wow. Where do you put it on your skull?
All over your head. Particularly your third eye, all over. Peanut oil is good for all of the bones. Fingers, hands, anything where you have a skeletal image there. Peanut oil. It does not stick on the skin long. It goes in, and the inside of you will understand that you're growing in intelligence. I don't mean growing. You're becoming. You're acknowledging that you became from something more, much more, than your parenthood lineage. You'll be connecting with the elemental energies that can assist you. And that is why some beings are very allergic to peanut oil, or the peanuts themselves, because there's an inner spiritual communication that goes on inside you talking that most don't want to hear, because it frightens them. They think a lot of the invisibles are demons, and they use that word for the control and separation portion of it, because the reflection even on that word creates this consternation there. The other entities besides you, they're not all demons in the understanding you beings have. You have available to you literally working knowledge of yourself in the application, what you would say is the blueprint form. Yeah, the blueprint form. And that will bring you into the memory.
The template.
Yes, the templates. That'll bring you into the memory of the nature of the lamb. The beauty, the calmness, and the gentleness of the lamb. Yet it can be a ferocious creature because it knows all things. It has the abilities to do things unknown to mankind at this time. Everyone wants miracle healing. And the difficulty is realizing that you are the miracle. And the acceptance of those things you've taken on that seem now more difficult than you thought at the time of taking them on. So when those difficulties arise, you succumb to the greater part of yourself that took on that challenge and ask what you will call for assistance from those that you were working with that sent you here, as you've gone through worlds, as what you say, the explorer race. There are ones there that are in the follow-up process, so to speak, as you do colonization to countries here before anything was found, and more come, and then it spreads through the country or the land. So too with you, because you have, in the human condition, many beings that are with you to support you. Yet, sometimes you listen in the wrong direction, and you're not quite aware yet of how your thoughts manifest. You're becoming aware of it because the day or the night before the next day, you're already thinking of what you've got to do the next day. So in that manner, there's a pre-manifestation about what needs to be accomplished that day. And then you go about doing it. The process of putting that off, finding the excuse to do this and that and the other, instead of what was pre-manifested for you to do the night before. The thought was clear there and done. The process of proceeding to it, however, becomes difficult. Things get put off. This has to be done first, this, that, and the other. You're learning to become aware of how to schedule your thought receptions. You have a thought to do a thing, you need to schedule it in your space and time. Because space and time is shifting. Your heart and your mind are looking for unification now. For a companion inside the womb, which is you now, as a body walking. So the heart and mind now are looking for the inner companion. The brain is your tool to have the heart and mind unified. And then you find out the body's the mind, and you have always been one pure heart. And you know, there are only 4 steps in the heart. It's not confusing. One chamber brings in old blood, sends it to the next chamber for reoxygenation, sends it to the next chamber for proper thought, and sends it to the 4th chamber for expulsion, for the completion. If you understand that the Holy Spirit is the one within you allowing the production of blood by the compressing of the bones, which the blood is tears of joy, for an inner expression of sacred life as one unit called you, working it. The body's the temple, and it's the sacred holiness of you, your holy temple. The holy temple in there. It's you. And you're coming into the bloom phase of acknowledging it, number one. Not that everyone else has to acknowledge you that way. But then you start acknowledging the processes proceeding from you, which love to all beings, peace to all beings, joy, health, and happiness. And those radiations are in your auric field. It doesn't take a confusing thought to adjudicate anything. The brain will work with the heart to create unification with the mind. And the body is the mind, the results of all your processes, of you as yourself. So you're cleaning yourselves up, first of all, inside now. The exterior expectations have been seen for what they are. And now you have to become the recluse within you to clean, and then you start seeing, literally, your mirror bodies out in front of you. Your visions will change. You will receive. And this is one of the difficult things, when vision starts changing. Because with vision you have interpretation. You're used to walking around your world and seeing your car there, and a bird there, and a tree there, and a rock there, and another person there. And in the minute in the seeing, you've discerned and identified. Reaction, chemically. Know what it is. But as vision changes, you start to see more of what others really look like. Because you're looking in another direction. You're looking in a more spiritual form, and you begin to see the imperfection within the creations of others. And by imperfection, I mean disease, illnesses, and things. And there's a reaction that will take place there. Usually, you don't want to see it. Or an overreaction. You tell everyone what to do, yet you know you shouldn't. You haven't learned to communicate to the spiritual forces yet within ones and about ones. And the learning process is now, do people really need to hear this? Do you need to hear this? Is this healthy for me to hear this? Or even entertain it in my filtered thought processes? Why do I need to contemplate this from someone else's expression? You have to get into your awareness, so we have to say defenses. You'll push your posture up. Your glass, which is your vision, it's going to look like you're looking through windows. It has to be clean. You'll see smudges and dirty and streaks on that. You need to clean it. And the only way you clean the glass that you're looking through is from inside you. It can't be cleaned from outside. It has to be cleaned with the desire to, we're going to say, correctly interpret. And in the correctly interpret, that means that you're available for assistance in a healthy, caring manner for ones, without being domineering or overlording. And that's what you're seeing now in your media, in your news, in your countries, with these beings, the overlord things. Because of their fear. They are in fear of themselves, that no one really likes them. And they know it. And that's why all of this, other things, the anger and the hostilities and things, they are not they're not here for others so much as you made your example in that country there. And there are other things working here that you're going to need to be aware of, because you have your nurturing aspect within you and within the planet. And that nurturing aspect within the planet is moving. When she moves, space is adjusted. It's a result of the magnetic and electrical influence. As you are physically incarnate, you're more magnetic, influenced by gravity, so to speak. And as you grow forth, you become more electrical to handle the magnetics. And you're going to need to know more electrical. And by that we mean white light, light from the stars. That's who you are, those stars there. But you forgot. It is not a better than thing. It's finally a graduation thing, an acceptance of your true identity. And then when that is done, then the application here becomes easy.